Hey guys, welcome to the second edition of the Vance Show. We are live here. As you can see, I've got a couple of guests, and we're going to be doing, you may know these guys already, and if so, you can probably guess the topic of today's show. We're going to be talking about video games, whether it's console, computer games, streaming, consoles. We'll kind of touch on a lot of different topics here. And just to go ahead and warn you, I kind of told them already, but if you're watching around 3:30, I've got to step out real quick, so it's going to be a slightly odd episode, but I've got to step out and get my kid off the bus, so I'll leave you in the good hands of our two guests for about 30 seconds or so, and give them a chance at that point to kind of plug their streams and podcasts and such. So I apologize for that. That was just scheduling on my part. I completely didn't think about it until I'd already set the schedule.
It happens.
But we'll go on. We got a half an hour before that happens, or approximately. But go ahead and introduce my guests here to you in case you're not familiar with them. They have their Twitter handles both, of course, on the screen. You can see Mike Straw up on your upper right corner of your screen at Mike Straw Media. And I don't want to even try to pronounce yours, Sean, but that is his Twitter handle. If you want to go ahead and shout it out there real quick.
Yeah, it's Wolf Ko-san. We've been following each other for like years, and that's never come up.
Yeah, no, I've always been curious, but I've never really thought about asking how you pronounce it or the origin of it or what. But it's Sean for me, and and you guys can find him on Twitter at that Twitter handle that's on your screen there.
Yep.
So let's kind of just jump right in, really here, and I want to start for me, and I'm probably older than you guys, but getting involved in video games to start with, like video games for a long time is more of a kid, activity, or at least when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of adults that play it. My parents tried a few times, and it was the funniest thing that you've ever seen, watching them try to play Mario Kart or something like that. But I got started really in the late 80s. There was Nintendo Entertainment System. Was really, we got one a little late, but we got one. Mario 3 and the early Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior games was kind of my bag at that point. But how did you guys get into, how did you guys start out playing video games, Mike?
So I had a weird start to it because my parents weren't around it. Like, I grew up around computers because of my dad being a developer in the early 90s, but we didn't really have video games in the house until... It's always weird to me until I had a doctor say, you know what might calm your son down from his outbursts? Because he noticed me playing a Nintendo and just sat there. Maybe get him a game console. And my parents were like, okay, if it calms him down for a little bit, then sure, let's go for it. And that's ultimately what happened. And the rest, the rest is history. I just was off to the races.
Right.
Yeah.
Sean, how did you get into it?
So I always had, my dad always had like a Sega Genesis at the house, like early 90s, and I would always want to play with him. And so what he would do originally is he would act like I'm playing. He'd like put a controller underneath the Genesis and give it to me and be like, oh, you're playing and stuff, but like you won't let me play. But how I started was I would go to my grandma's house, and my uncle, he used to live there, and he had a Super Nintendo there. And he had a Link to the Past. So I would boot that thing up without like anyone around and just start playing it on my own. But I knew not to save anything. That's the one thing I knew, do not save.
Right.
But that's pretty much how I started. The first game that I got to experience on my own is a Link to the Past.
Well, that's a tough one to play with no save file to to work back from. So was those your first systems then? The Super Nintendo, or sort of Super Nintendo for you, and then the
Sega Genesis.
Sega,
yeah. For me, Sonic the Hedgehog was my go-to, and there was a game, Pebble Beach Golf Links.
I know what that is
for the Genesis. It was the only game my dad and I would play. My dad really got into two games: Sid Meier's Pirates and Pebble Beach Golf Links. And then he stopped playing Pebble Beach the day I finally beat him.
Dad's, I'm probably the same way. I don't really like to lose.
My kid will never beat me. I don't care. It's become my career. My kid will never beat me.
So you guys were kind of then in that era then, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Obviously, that was the kind of maybe what made video games, or at least helped make video games mainstream, was the console war, or the original console war, I guess. Genesis versus Super Nintendo. That was, they went at each other on ads, and they each had games that were kind of their calling cards for each system. Did you guys have a preference on? I mean, I know you obviously had a Super Nintendo that you played more, but did you have a preference from that era as far as systems go?
I was a Sega fanboy. To be the only game I liked on Nintendo consoles growing up was Zelda. The Legend of Zelda is my number one. My number one series of all time. So growing up, it was the only game I had interest in. So if I wanted to play a Zelda game, I would borrow my cousin's NES or Super Nintendo or whatever it may be, and then they'd have my Genesis for a little while. So it was kind of like we'd swap, but it was always Sega. And then the N64 came out, and I had the Saturn. Saturn was just god awful. N64 came out, and then I transitioned and I became a Nintendo fanboy from that point on.
John, did you have a preference on one or the other?
So I played a lot of Sega Genesis, but there were so many Super Nintendo games that I loved playing. Like I just talked about A Link to the Past. I also loved like Super Mario World, the Donkey Kong Country games, Kirby. Like I played the mess out of those as a kid. Like it was stupid.
Yeah, we had a Super Nintendo at my house, and but I had my friend who I stayed with a lot, had a Genesis, so I got to play both. And it was Mortal Kombat at their house for the most part, and then because the Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat was awful, and then at my house it was the Tecmo Super Bowl that we played a lot, and I think Tecmo had a baseball game that we played a lot. My brother and I had a lot of fun with that. As far as Super Nintendo goes, did anybody else have was I the only one that had a Sega Dreamcast?
No, I had one.
Yeah.
My cousin bought two at a launch date, and we had one. I had one, and he had one. And the original NBA 2K and NFL 2K are still two of my favorite games ever. Sonic Adventure is still incredible. Man, that was a console that they made one big mistake by not including a DVD player on it.
Yeah.
They made one big mistake. And if they would have included a DVD player on it, I still believe to this day Sega would be one of the partners. We wouldn't have had Xbox at all. Right. Sega would have been still around because Sega, I don't know if many people know this, but the Dreamcast was supposed to get Halo. Halo was developed for the Sega Dreamcast. And then when it went down, Microsoft pivoted. And rightfully so, because that was their killer app. But yeah, like I still am a firm believer. If they had a DVD player, because they were the first console with internet, everything. Like you have a DVD
really
player
console. It was like there were a lot of positives to it. When it came out. Like it was a really advanced unit.
Had the greatest game of all time in Seaman.
my wife, who's ex-wife now, but my ex-wife's brother had Seaman, and he loved it. He played it all the time.
It was literally the Dreamcast Tamagotchi, but it was so stupid.
Yeah,
just so over the top dumb that I couldn't help but enjoy it.
I think that was probably everybody.
I've always wanted to play that game. I never had a Dreamcast. My parents made me choose between the Nintendo 64 and a Dreamcast, and I picked Nintendo 64. However, I did just play Sonic Adventure for the first time ever, and I'm like making like an hour-long video on it. But holy piss, is that actually? It's still a lot of fun to play.
It's the best Sonic game that isn't a 2D.
Like it's so. It has jank to it, but at the same time, it works in its favor because you can just do whatever you want in that game. It's so good. It's so good.
And then Sonic Adventure 2 just took what was good and made it better. Like the Sonic Adventure series, like to me, is underrated. It's massively underrated.
They need to make a comeback.
So let's talk. We've kind of mentioned it a couple of times, the different series, of games, Sonic, and then you mentioned the Zelda games, and I mentioned the Final Fantasy earlier. Did you guys have a go-to series early on, at least, that you had? Like, I have to get the game. It's number 2. Final Fantasy 2 comes out. I need Final Fantasy 2 and 3, or whatever the case may be. Did you guys have a favorite series that you had to have?
It was Legend of Zelda for me. Anytime a new Zelda game, except for handheld ones, because I was never a handheld game fan. Like the only reason I had a handheld console was Pokemon, and that was it. But it was the only game I ever owned for Game Boys or anything. I was never a handheld, so any mainline Legend of Zelda game was always that. And Sonic was too up until the Dreamcast died.
Yeah, mine were Pokemon because actually, fun fact: the first game I ever bought for myself was Pokemon Red. I mean, granted, I didn't like buy it fully, but it was like a hey, I used my allowance money, and then my parents spent the rest of it. But then after that point, it was like I need gold and this and that and blah blah blah. But that I got every Mario game. I was late to the Final Fantasy party, but I also started the Elder Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started the Elder Scrolls, I think I started with Morrowind, and then after that, I was just getting every single.
Yeah, I think that's
Elder
probably
Scrolls.
a lot of people. That was the same with me. I started at Morrowind, and then on up through Skyrim, and then...
I will be I only ever played Oblivion, and I'll only ever play Oblivion.
Oblivion was good.
Yeah, it's the only Elder Scrolls a game I ever got into, and it's probably the only one I'll ever play.
Everybody, they've remade Skyrim so many times, and for everything you could possibly remake it for, that it kind of gets all the pub. But I thought Oblivion was a really good game.
People crap on Rockstar for releasing GTA 5 every 2 weeks. Skyrim, yeah. Skyrim, next week they're announcing it for the Neo Geo.
God. I hate to admit this. There's a reason why. Don't judge me real quick. I have had to buy Skyrim 7 times. Now hear me out. So I bought it for PlayStation 3. And I got it for Xbox 360 because whenever I went to college, that's what we had. We had just a 360. We didn't have a PlayStation 3. But I brought my game with me. Our house got broken into, and they stole all our games, so I had to rebuy that stuff. I got a PlayStation 4. You couldn't play PlayStation 3 games on the PlayStation 4, so I bought Skyrim there. And then I saw it on PC for like $20 with like all the other Elder Scrolls games. So I bought it there. And pretty much, there you go. I'm just going to leave it at that.
You're probably not alone, so
no.
People bought that multiple times. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep releasing it.
Exactly. I am the person that they've done that to, and I know it's stupid. I know it's awful. I'm also the kind of person who eventually buys Madden despite knowing how awful it is.
Yeah,
it is my head empty game. Like I just put it on, and I'm just like nothing else matters. I don't care to even win this. I'm just playing.
Right. Yeah, that's probably a lot of people as well. I think the funniest thing for me early on, it was Mario. You got, when we bought our NES, it came with the first Mario, and then my parents, or maybe a friend of ours, gave us a copy of Mario 2. I don't really even remember, but we didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't really get new games. But one year for my birthday, they bought me Mario 3. They went out, bought it brand new when it came out, and I was so excited. I got the game and played it nonstop, beat it in like 3 days, and and then I felt bad. I was like, oh, they just went out and bought me this, expensive game, whatever it was at the time, that they really couldn't afford for my birthday, and then I beat it in 2 days, and it kind of
never touch it again.
I would play it every now and then just so that they didn't feel like they wasted their money. I was afraid they wouldn't buy me any more games. Like, if you're going to beat them in 2 days, then we're not going to spend $40-$50 on new ones. So I put it and play it.
I was that way with beating games so quick that my parents were like, unless it's a multiplayer game, we'll rent it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, it was you could do that back. Yeah, I kind of miss the old days of being able to go.
We all do.
Rent games. Like, it was stupid and it was a waste of money because you couldn't, unless you were really, really. I don't know about your guys's, where you guys were at, but like the video stores where I lived, and it was a really small town. There was only one, but when you rented the game, you only got it for like 2 days.
It depended on the game. If it was a major popular release, it was a 2-day rental. Anything else was 5 to 7 days, depending on the game. But usually it was the weekend. My biggest thing was I had a friend who lived 2 houses down. Every Friday, we would, after school, we would walk 20 minutes to the Blockbuster, figure out, we'd combine our money for like the $10 rental for the weekend, whatever, and we just spend the entire weekend playing that game.
Yeah.
And that was a weekly thing for 10 years.
Yeah. I used to so like I also did Blockbuster. What I did though is I bought a memory card with my money. So I would save the files, return it after 2 days, and then get my parents to bring me back and then go back to playing it, which they probably spent more money than they should have on the thing because some games were just so hard to beat back then.
Right.
Yeah, it
games
really all
like
depended
RPGs
on the game,
were just hard to do that with. It was
we rarely ever did it with those types of games. But then back then, we had a lot of games that were only 10 to 20 hours to complete.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was, you could do that and beat it, and sometimes beat them in the weekend. A game that I love, I probably would still play now if I had I had a copy of it, and I have a working NES,
Mhm.
and I let a cousin of mine borrow the game, and it disappeared. I never saw it again, which was on me. I shouldn't have been that stupid. But there was a game for the NES, and it was a strategy game called Genghis Khan, where
Yeah.
you could play as 4 different historical leaders, Genghis Khan, and I don't really remember the other ones, but like you just raise taxes or lower taxes and buy, build an army. It was like really basic strategy type game, but me and my cousins would play it for hours. We rented it over almost every weekend. That's the game we rented because nobody else did. For one, it was always there.
Yeah, you always had those random games. Like for me, it was Desert Strike and Jungle Strike.
I played the mess out of Jungle Strike. That's
were the 2 games that I would always try and rent if I was renting by myself, or we would go camping for the weekend. Glamping, we'd go to our RV for the weekend, and I'd sit. If the weather was going to be crap, my dad would take me to Blockbuster. He's like, I still want to relax on the deck, but I know you're going to want to sit inside. So I'd rent one of the strike games and I'd just play through it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have one like that, Sean? Something that was an oddball game that you just, for whatever reason, played?
I mean, there were like a couple. Like they're just, I can't think of one off the top of my head, so just throw that one away.
No problem. Moving forward after that, you kind of got into the obviously PlayStation kind of replaced in the console wars. Eventually, would develop into PlayStation versus Xbox, with Nintendo kind of, I don't want to say an afterthought, but the console wars are more, people think about PlayStation and Xbox, and Nintendo's more of, I guess, the kid-friendly unit that people don't really think about as much. But
see, I don't know if it's that. I'm of the mindset you have the Xbox fanboys, the PlayStation fanboys, and then everybody loves Nintendo because Nintendo has Mario.
Maybe that's what, right? Yeah, of course, Mario's universal. I don't know if I've ever met anybody that doesn't or hasn't at least played 3 or 4 of the Mario games and enjoyed them as well. Like that's just kind of a universal thing, kind of like Sonic, maybe back in the day. Unless you're my kid who plays Sonic constantly, the old ones and the new ones and whatever, anything with Sonic on it, I probably have here somewhere.
Yes.
Did you guys have a preference? We'll leave Nintendo out of it because, as Mike mentioned, it was kind of that's a fair observation. It is kind of everybody plays Nintendo, which is why Nintendo sells buku units no matter what is happening with the rest of the so-called console war. But did you guys have a preference then between PlayStation and Xbox?
I was an Xbox. Like I had obviously Nintendo, I had GameCube, I had all that, but Xbox was my preference. The original Xbox, the 360, but they turned on me. When they announced the Xbox One and they were announcing it had to always be connected. All their announcements, they botched that so bad. I'm like, all right, I'm going to PlayStation, and I haven't looked back. Like ultimately, I usually end up with all the consoles because I'm a fan of console exclusives, and I'll fight to that too. Like console exclusives matter. But like, I mean, I've just been PlayStation first. Like I got my PS4 before the Xbox One. I got my PS5. Still don't have a Series X. Probably won't because they don't have any exclusives. I mean, if it comes out exclusively for an Xbox console, they're putting it on PC now. So it's one of those of like, I have no need. But my PS5 is. I have never been like, well, I'm this until I die. It was just all right. Who's going to give me the best games, the best exclusives, and the best experience?
Right. Yeah. Like I didn't get an Xbox 360 until way later. Like I started with PlayStation, love PlayStation. I have a PlayStation 2 near me, a PlayStation 5, everything. And I've recently started playing a lot of 360 games. I played I played the Halo games. I love them. Fable's pretty good, but PlayStation is where I've been at, like with their exclusive games. It's just what I've always, been interested in.
Yeah, and that's a major part of it for me is the exclusives, and let's talk about the PlayStation exclusives, especially once we moved into maybe the PlayStation 3 and 4 range, I guess, but primarily, and 4 for me because I had an Xbox 360. I didn't have a PlayStation 3, but then I bought a PlayStation 4 instead of the Xbox One. But as of now, I know that we've recently saw Xbox acquire the the exclusive rights for the future Elder Scrolls games, Fallout games. Those will probably be Xbox exclusive, or as Mike mentioned, they'll be on PC. But outside of that, it feels like the PlayStation has had their exclusives has far outranked the Xbox exclusives. I mean, outside of Halo, which is pretty popular, I don't really know of another big time Xbox exclusive. Meanwhile, PlayStation has put out Spider-Man, the Last of Us games, the Horizon Zero Dawn and its sequel, the Uncharted games. Like, they've had mega hit after mega hit as exclusive games. Has that made a big difference for you?
If we're looking, the big reason, like Xbox, the big deal, like if we're going back to the OG to now, the original Xbox had a lot of good ones. They had Halo, they had Fable, which was
Fable. I didn't forget about that. Sean even mentioned it.
A massive
and really good game also.
They had they had the Forza series. Console wise, they had Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. They were the only console with that back on the old Xbox. Then the 360, and they had Project Gotham Racing. The 360 comes around, and they have Forza. They have the Gears franchise.
Gears
continue with Halo. So they had a lot of exclusives. And then the Xbox One came out, and they had Ori and the Blind Forest, or for a little bit as an exclusive. But their biggest exclusive, like they tried Rise Son of Rome as a launch title. That was a terrible, like repetitive game. Their best game that got no traction was Sunset Overdrive. It was an incredible game, but again, no traction whatsoever. Meanwhile, PlayStation Infamous, Uncharted, Ratchet and Clank, all these games, even back then, Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, Spyro, they had all of these exclusives. Sony, when it comes to exclusives, has been the home of like the juggernaut exclusives, whereas Microsoft back then had really good ones, but they seem to just be like, nah, they don't matter to us anymore.
Xbox, it feels more like they're going after studios that have the exclusives rather than making their own, because I think they tried to make their own, and while a lot of them did stick, some of them didn't really, continue to do well. You saw them, do Tomb Raider. They tried to bring Tomb Raider exclusively to the Xbox. That didn't do too hot. You see them, again, they just bought, like you said, they bought Bethesda, so they're going to have, you're going to have Fallout, Elder Scrolls. They have Obsidian, which are the people that worked on New Vegas. But like you said, when it comes to PlayStation, you have God of War, you have the new Ratchet and Clank, you have Horizon Zero Dawn, and I get that some of them are going to PC eventually. Well, some are, but at the same time, like those games that makes you want to buy a PlayStation. But what makes you want to buy an Xbox? What makes you want to buy an Xbox over a PC?
Nothing.
Price? That's
it.
all I got.
The comfort of sitting in your living room.
Yeah.
Because that's really all I got. That's why I have a console. People always, you have a PC. Like, I have a powerful PC. Like, I have a 39. Well, now I have a 4090 because benefits of job.
Yeah.
But it's like I have all these top of the line parts. But why do you still get consoles? Because I like sitting on my couch or like lounging and playing on the TV behind me, or bringing the PS5 upstairs and just lounging on my couch and playing a game of 2K or something. Like, I don't always want to just sit at my desk and mouse and keyboard. Like, it all depends on the mood I'm in.
Right.
Let's talk sports games. Sean mentioned Madden earlier too. Mike, do you play any sports games at all, or is that just?
Well, for the past 6 years, I've been the managing editor at sportsgamersonline.com. And to say I play sports games would be an understatement. That's all I've done almost exclusively. And I have witnessed the fall into the worst era of sports gaming we've ever had, and we continue to have. And I don't know how much time we have in this show, but I mean, if we want to go to 10 o'clock, I could list off for 7 more hours about why that's the case. But yeah, it's a terrible. We're in a terrible era, in my opinion, for all sorts of video games and media, but sports games especially. We're in a brutal time where it's all about collectible card modes, which ruined every sort of AAA game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was going next. Is the Ultimate Team stuff, and it seems like that has become the goal because it makes extra money. And I get it,
Yeah.
but because people will just spend hundreds of dollars buying card packs and exclusives and whatnot in it. I don't, but people do.
Yeah.
And
those same people will complain about the game being bad. It's like, you want it to change, then stop giving them your money. There's a reason like EA alone on Ultimate Team makes in $4.5 billion. They made $4.5 billion last year on Ultimate Team purchases alone.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no impetus for them to change anything or make anything different, because why would they? They're making
you're buying it anyway. You're spending a ton of money on this anyway. You're buying thousands of dollars worth of card packs, and until the top streamers and the Ultimate Team ones and the pay to win fans and all that stuff get it through their heads that the only way to change is to hurt EA in the wallet, nothing's going to change, and they refuse to do so.
Yeah. Like this past year, like when it comes to buying the game, Madden, those sales have dipped quite a lot. But like I said, I buy Madden whenever it's like $10. That's what.
I mean, the sales, they're still yet at the top of the sales. Like NDP came out in September, and they were still, I think they were number 3 overall in total game sales. So people are still buying it. I will say, if it wasn't for the fact I get these copies for free, I would not buy another sports game.
I haven't in a while.
Yeah. So the one thing I am excited to see, because I'm waiting for this, is that 2K is supposed to make another football game. I just want. I know it's not supposed to be simulation, like a simulator, but like I want Madden to have competition, because we saw like NBA 2K and NBA Live have competition, and granted that's been kind of not great lately, but just that competition alone I think is needed, because Madden's just been able to crap out the same thing for the past 3-4 years. I played I got like 10 hours for free on Xbox, and I got to play Madden. I threw a touchdown and it gave 6 points to the other team.
Right.
And I was like,
that's usually the best part of the releases, is seeing all the videos of the glitches, and they're hysterical.
They're funny to me. Yeah, that's where I got to a point where I just find it funny watching how bad things get.
Oh yeah.
And the people that buy it, the sales, even when the sales do dip, they're not really losing money, because people that are buying it are largely buying it in part so they can go spend, an extra $1,000 on card packs.
Yeah.
So, they may not sell quite as many copies, but they're still making a bunch of money on the ancillary part around the game.
Yeah.
100%.
The original 2K football game, by the way, was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
My brother and I had it for, I don't remember which year it was, but we had it for the original Xbox and played it. We didn't play Madden. We played the NFL 2K game. It was great.
That's what I still play 2K5 to this day. They update it. There's a team that updates it every year with updated rosters. There's 2K Resurrected out. For those who want it on PC, they updated the logos, they've updated the scoreboards, they've updated the jerseys, they've updated the roster, everything. So like LA has the Rams and Chargers, Vegas has the Raiders, and like they updated all this stuff, and it's still a very fun experience. And to talk about the upcoming 2K game, it was supposed to come out last year. Things happened. Supposed to come out this year, delayed. They're aiming for next year. I've been told, like I reported on SGO a while back, they're even holding out possibility of it 2024. And they I don't know what, I think they're at a situation where they're kind of pushing the limit of what's simulation and what's not. And they're probably being told, no, we can't have that. No, you can't have that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some cease and desists being bandied about from EA.
Yeah.
In terms of that. The other, I guess, future big news anyway with the sports games is the return of the college football. I suppose basketball too eventually, but the college football game, of course. Would that sway you to buy a sports game just to play the new college game?
Nope. NCAA football 14 revamped, college football revamped gets you what you need.
Very popular.
There's no way right now they could convince me, because it's going to be not the Madden engine, but it's going to be pretty damn close.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like Madden, why the hell? If you don't like Madden, why would you play this? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of people who buy it thinking it's going to be different, and it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see, not in like a, I'm actually wanting it, but I'm interested to see if they try to do like an ultimate team when it comes to college football.
They
Like
did it before.
Yeah. So like I could see it literally just going down the same path as Madden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll sell a crap ton because of
Yeah.
the return. But yeah, I wonder how
But, I
quickly
mean,
it'll just be.
It's like Ultimate Team. I fully expect them to try and implement.
Mhm.
Who knows with the NIL stuff they do? But I mean, like Ultimate Team, they even tried to put it in the UFC series, but it bombed so bad that they took it out before UFC 4 because it just no one played it. No one wants it. Like the UFC fans spoke. They're like, no. So EA's took it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't remember exactly when the Ultimate Team stuff kind of came into vogue or when that became a thing, but I just maybe it's just me, but I just don't see the appeal of it. Like, why do I want? I paid $60 for the game to play the game. Why would I want to go spend another $100 or $200 or $500 or more?
I see the appeal from a general standpoint of, hey, you can build your team, this legendary team of anybody you want, you collect. The idea of like opening a pack that you earned from playing a game, and then you play online with your team. It's once you start having to spend real money that I immediately get turned off, because then it clearly becomes pay to win. I also don't like in the case of Madden, all legends are hid behind a paywall in Ultimate Team. There's no legend teams in Madden. If you want to play with a legendary player like a Jerry Rice or a Randy Moss or something, it's because you need to go out and
That's the signal, the bat signal from my dogs. I'll be back momentarily. You guys can go ahead and plug your streaming and podcast real quick if you don't care. I'll be right back.
All right. You go right ahead.
Well, right now it's just follow Mike Straw Media on Twitter. That's where most of my news is. You could find everything and exclusive reports and the latest sports gaming. I cheap plug myself because I'm still the person who broke the return of GM mode coming to WWE 2K22. So that's like my biggest claim to gaming fame over the last year and a half.
Yeah. I'm Wolf San. I'm that on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. I make YouTube videos on all sorts of retro games. I'm making one on Sonic Adventure now. There's I just kind of tweet stuff. I talk to a lot of developers and stuff, so I learn stuff from them. And it's a good time. I just like talking video games, honestly. Oh, he was right. It wouldn't take him long at all.
No, right outside the door. Look at that.
Yeah.
My kid had a half day today, so he's been home.
Oh, there you go. See, when I was in school, they didn't drop me off at my house. I had to walk like down like a hill for like 2 minutes to get to my house.
Yeah, in the city here, they drop you off at stops. Once you're getting to the suburbs, they start dropping you off at home.
Welcome
Okay,
back.
guys, I am back. Sorry about that again. I will be more careful when scheduling in the future.
It is all good.
All right. Let's catapult sort of into more current games. What are you guys playing right now, Sean? What are you currently playing? I know you mentioned one earlier.
So right now I play a bunch of different games. I've been playing Digimon Survive. I platinumed Elden Ring recently. I love that game. I'm going to restart Alien Isolation later today. But I am very much looking forward to God of War Ragnarok. I pre-ordered the controller. And I'm thinking about maybe replaying God of War just to like get the feel back, but I don't know. Oh, and I'm also going to start playing the Horizon Forbidden West game in the next couple weeks. So a lot of different games right now.
Have you not played Forbidden West yet? Then
no.
Okay.
This will be my first time playing it.
A few months ago, I finished it. I'm a big fan of the Horizon. I love the Horizon Zero Dawn. The original one was probably one of my 3 favorite games of all time. Mike, what are you currently working on?
So I bounce around all over the place. I go a lot. This time of year, I get really heavy into Civilization. So Civ 6 has been a game I play all the time. And then I'm big into fishing games, and Ultimate Fishing Planet 2 and Call of the Wild the Angler just came out. So those are 2 games I've been really diving into. And then there's also a game. It's a turn-based strategy game, an indie turn-based strategy game called Songs of Conquest that I'm really digging. It's on Steam. It's the closest game to an old series, Heroes of Might and Magic, from 3DO from back in the the 90s and early 2000s that I fell in love with. It's the closest I've gotten to it since. So those have basically been my and then odds and ends. Sometimes I'll dive into City Skylines. Sometimes I'll dive into Spyro, and then there's Legend Bowl. Legend Bowl is a great, if you like Tecmo Bowl, and the Legend Bowl is a great throwback visually. It's a pixel art football game, but it plays like a simulation football game, and it is made by one person, and it is such a fantastic game.
There you go. For those of you who missed the old school, old football games where you weren't worried about ultimate teams, then that might be something to look into. How much of your gaming is PC based now as opposed to console? Do you, I mean, obviously, when you do streaming, you're maybe on your PC and stuff. But do you play the PC much? I use mine mostly just to play Minecraft on. I don't play a lot of other games on it, but you guys use yours much. I know, Mike, you mentioned you had an expensive one and a really nice one.
I think about 80% of my gaming is on PC. The only thing I use my console for usually is Madden 2K. And then the exclusives, but if there's a multi-platform game, I'm getting it on PC just because I like to play with my friends, and they all play on PC because I'm the only one of my friend group with a console because I'm that guy.
Sean,
I'd say it's like 50-50. Like sometimes I'll just be on my PC and I pull up a game, but like I just bought a retro tank, so like I can plug in my my retro games to like my TV, and it just like upscales it to like 1080p and everything. It looks so good.
That's what I use, because I don't know if you know, it's behind me. I got my 64, I got my Genesis, I got my PS1, my PS2, all in a bunch of wires. Cable management is not something I'm good at, and I just don't care. Here. Can I plug it in? Does it work? I'm good.
Yeah, all my stuff is really like over on this side. You cannot see it. You're never gonna see it because it looks disgusting.
That's what I should do. I should like just be like, all right, you can see the top of my head, and then you can see like my shelves and my posters. Like,
yeah, mine was worse than it is now. I used to have a bunch hooked up like that too, and I finally had done. It was a wire. It was a disaster. Like it took hours to untangle the wires to unhook the ones because they've just been back there.
Yeah, I fear that
got tangled more and more.
Yeah, when that day happens, I am terrified of it because I know it's going to happen where I'm going to have to redo everything, and I'm like, it's going to spend like an entire day just rearranging wires, and then just after that, I'm going to go lay down and cry.
Yeah, because it sucks.
Yeah, it really does. Do either of you play any? It's a little bit off the path, but any mobile games at all on your phones or anything like that?
Retro Bowl, another great
Retro
football
Bowl
game, and then I play Game Dev Tycoon because it's a great relaxing game.
I've played Retro Bowl. I played the mess out of that. I did like 10 years of that game. Then I was like, okay, that's enough. But that's really about it. Like I've looked into other games. I've looked into like RPG card games. But nothing's really like caught my attention to keep playing.
I download a lot of mobile games and then start a lot of mobile games, but I don't actually play a lot of mobile games. I give them like 5 minutes, and there's a couple that are good. There's a couple of decent RPG type ones that I've played, and Retro Bowl, I also did play that for a bit. But yeah, they look good and they sound interesting, but then when I actually play them, I'm like, man, I just hate playing games. So I need a controller really, or something that I can push buttons. I don't like not having something I can feel, because my fingers don't, like, I cannot get muscle memory in my fingers enough to push the same place on the control pad or the virtual control pad. Like, I miss a lot. So when I try to push up, I don't hit the up button or whatever, and then I die. Like, I tried to play Minecraft on my phone, and it absolutely is. I die within 3 seconds every time because I can't control things right because I don't have actual buttons I can feel to work with.
That's how I am. I need that feedback of some sort.
Yeah. I just don't like it. So any games I play on the phone are games that don't involve any real danger. I can't die in them, or there's not any. Like Retro Bowl is something that I can live with that. tough question. Probably, I don't know if I could answer it myself, but what would be all-time favorite game?
Majora's Mask.
Ooh.
Easy.
This is a
Best
good one.
Zelda game, favorite game of all time. It's the only Zelda that differentiated from the norm.
Right.
Mm.
I think that was when it came out. I remember I didn't get it, but one of my friends had it, and it was like, "Wow, this is a Zelda game. This is so out of place from the rest of them." I liked as far as Zelda games go. By the way, I see it constantly on like the worst games list, and it's always bashed. Nobody likes it, but Zelda 2, I actually did get that one year as well. My parents bought me it.
I don't hate it.
love that game.
I don't hate it. It's just not. I think it's because it's not anything like any other Zelda. But that's why I like Majora's Mask too.
You're right. Yeah, Majora's Mask is in my top 3 favorite Zelda games. Honestly, like I just the themes. God, favorite.
See, this is where speaking while you're thinking. So I have my cartridge, and it's the hologram. But when I was moving, the worst thing ever happened, and I dropped it, and the shell cracked open. The game still works, still works perfectly fine. But trying to find a replacement shell with the holographic label is next to impossible.
Yeah,
it's basically you're trying to find a broken version of the game where the game doesn't work, so I can just take it apart and pop my card in.
Right.
Yeah,
this has been like nightmare inducing, and had the game 20 years.
Right.
And I drop it once.
Yeah, of course.
Hold on. I have a fun thing that I just realized. So my favorite game, I think, is Banjo-Kazooie. The more I thought about it, I love 3D platformers. So my ex bought me this mod, which is Banjo-Kazooie meets Majora's Mask. And I have not played this yet, but I've looked into it, and you Banjo-Kazooie running around in, Majora's Mask. And it looks so good. So
sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think the more I think about Banjo-Kazooie is definitely my number one. I just love the aesthetic. I love the characters.
Everything about it.
Yeah, it just reeks personality in every way, shape, and form.
Rare used to be so good at that, and then Microsoft bought him and ruined it.
Yeah, they tried to make them do everything else, and they made Platonic and
Star Wars Connect.
Yeah, Star Wars Connect.
That's always a good idea. All the Connect games were great.
Yeah, they were things, that's for sure. And then Rare made Sea of Thieves, and Sea of Thieves it started off really, really rocky. Like I got it day one. It was just like, okay, I'm hanging out with friends, but like it has really gotten a lot better over time. Like,
yeah, I think my biggest problem, and this is this always gets me in trouble on Twitter. First person games are the literal worst.
You're not into them?
I can't stand them. Everybody's like, well, don't you want to act like you're playing the game? No, I want to act like it's a movie, and movies aren't first person except that one really terrible movie from like 7 years ago. But no, I want to like control the character, like third person. I want to be able to see my character, because I always hated first person games where it's like, oh, you can create your character and have these. It's like, what's the point?
I like games that give you. Go ahead.
No, so go ahead.
I like games that give you the ability to be in first person or third person.
Yeah, like that I can get down with, because obviously I'm always choosing for third person. But so many people just, I'm just not a fan of first person games at all.
Yeah, I don't hate them, but I can deal with them. But I would prefer third person if I had a choice, like Sean mentioned, in games like that. One last topic that I wanted to kind of get to before we leave here. The advent, and I guess it's not new, but it is for me, of virtual reality. PlayStation obviously has their own virtual reality. I assume Xbox does, but maybe they don't. I'm not sure.
They're working. They've been working on it for years, but who knows what's.
And then the Oculus, obviously, the different, I guess, Meta headsets. I have the Oculus Quest, Meta Quest, whatever you want to call it, 2 here that we bought for Christmas last year. My kid plays on it constantly. I played it a little bit. Have you guys done a lot of virtual reality?
So I have. You can see it up above behind me. I have an HP Reverb G2, and I like it. my biggest thing, it's the only virtual reality headset I've ever been able to wear comfortably that one doesn't give me motion sickness and two fits over glasses comfortably. But it's still, and to me, will always be a niche thing, no matter how cheap they want to make these headsets, because at the end of the day, a lot of people still want to just sit down and relax and play video games and not have. Gamers are inherently lazy. All right. Pot calling kettle black. Gamers are inherently, when you want a game, it's to sit down and just play, not work while playing. So like I use it as like my exercise. So I'll play Beat Saber. Yeah. That is my exercise. Granted, have I done it lately? No. But when I do it, I'm always like, I should do this every day. And then I get into that kick for like 5 days and I stop.
Yeah.
But it's even with the Oculus One, with the Quest, I refuse to buy into that because Facebook can get bent and Meta can get bent. So I refuse to get involved in that ecosystem. But it's just setting up most VR headsets and things like that, especially console. The big thing with VR, people like to be able to mod. Like the modding community and the VR community kind of go hand in hand. And then when you get into the console side of things, like the PlayStation VR and stuff, you're losing that side of things. So it's a tough sell.
Sean, have you done much?
I've done a little bit of VR. I've done the PlayStation VR, like when it originally came out, and like you were talking, Mike, like fitting comfortably around your glasses, it's just not that great. But I've done some stuff here and there. I was gonna buy a PlayStation VR, but then I realized like the only game I would play for VR for PlayStation would be Skyrim, and I'm not buying that again. That was my line. But you know, there are some games that I'm really interested in trying out. Like I want to play Beat Saber. I want to see what VR chat's all about because that just seems like an insanely chaotic time. Yeah,
it's chaotic. It's a nightmare. And let's put it this way: the clips you see online are the good ones.
Oh yeah,
90% of it, it's racist and terrible.
God.
Shocker! I know.
Very stunning.
But yeah, but I think that VR does, like you said, it's niche. It can work. I think there are certain games that you can make for it, but like, I'm just not drawn to buying it right now. Outside of like you were saying, you know, it's chaotic, but like there's going to be some awful things you're going to hear the moment you get in, and that doesn't really fully appeal to me. So I think it could be something, but right now it's not there. Granted, I think I said that like 5 years ago too. So
because it doesn't seem to have turned the corner yet. There are some really cool experiences I've had,
and that's a great way to put it. Experiences, but nothing where every day you're gonna go, This is what I'm doing.
And that's what has happened. Once the first few days wore off, and I played the crap out of Beat Saber, and I played. There's a roller coaster game you can kind of ride around on a roller coaster, and there's a Walking Dead game that is fun but makes me nauseous, so I can't really play it very much for more than about 2 minutes at a time. But outside of that, you can go to see like a concert. I did watch part of a Foo Fighters concert. That was kind of cool, I guess. In design, but outside of that, I haven't really been on it much.
Yeah,
for that reason.
It's like for gaming, you can just sit down and game. Like you can sit down on your computer, you can sit down on your couch, you can game. Whereas VR, you have to actually set it up and get everything moved around so you can play it. So it's a little more hands-on, and at that point, you're making it an event rather than a cooldown. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
like you are playing it to play it rather than to relax.
Yeah, there's no such thing as just I'm gonna chill out and play a VR game.
Yeah,
even though like they released City Skylines in VR. City Skylines a great chill out, relaxing game, not in VR.
I imagine that's absolutely awful. I could not.
I didn't like it one bit.
I cannot imagine.
The biggest part of VR is really just the cool view. Like you can set up the environments around you and stuff like that. It's all really cool, and to see is like, this is amazing to look at, but the actual practice of playing a game is, there's a lot that goes with it. Motion sickness we mentioned, like I get until they've solved that, and I guess they're supposed to be working on something that's supposed to make it better, some kind of update or something, but like I can't play anything that involves me moving. Like Beat Saber, cool. I can play that. There's a fishing game or a couple fishing games. I can sit and fish. Those are cool. But if I've got to move, I'm probably going to throw up after about 10 minutes of doing it. Then I think that's a real
I'm waiting
challenge.
for a really
Right.
good golf VR game.
Yeah.
That would be fine. I would do a golf VR game for sure.
NFL Pro Era for PSVR and Oculus is getting rave reviews.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be coming to Steam this fall, which that they needed on that because limiting it to those two platforms is going to massively. Like, I'm a fan of exclusives. Don't get me wrong. I'll preach that. In VR, you can't afford to have exclusives because you're still trying to reach people.
Yeah, there isn't a VR. I mean, there is a VR audience, but like, you're not going to get sales with that audience.
Not big enough to where you can have exclusives and make money on it.
Yeah,
like, no, my kid just downloads all the free games and plays those. So
yeah,
that's what it gets used for here.
Exactly, but it. Do I think it could get there eventually? Yeah, but it still has a ways to go.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. We've used up most of the hour. I'm going to jump off here. I actually do have work to go back to here in about another hour. I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate those of you tuned in to watch live with us. You can go back and watch. Obviously, the episode will be on YouTube. You can go check it out there. Thank you to my guests. You can, again, follow them on Twitter. You should be following on Twitter if you have any interest in video games. Both of them do really cool stuff. You can podcast and streaming. You want to hit them one more time with your podcast information, Mike?
Yeah, no podcasting stuff right now, other than Full Press Hockey Weekly. I do a hockey show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. on Twitter. And then there is my freelance stuff. Just follow me at Mike Straw Media, and I post articles all over the place.
And Sean?
Yeah. Like I said,
on YouTube channel or
wherever
you stream.
Yeah, Wolf San on YouTube, Twitch, even Twitter. I play video games. I do retro games, newer games, or indie games. Just kind of go all over, but my YouTube's mostly focused on more retro games. I do a lot of Nintendo 64 reviews, and I just try to make comedic videos. So, it's a good time. It's a good chill time.
Sounds cool. You guys should be definitely checking both of them out and their different works. I appreciate them again coming on. Love to have them back on again. We'll have maybe a more specific topic next time. Like I said, I've got some stuff going on and wasn't really able to get this episode planned out very well as my original intent was. But we'll do this again at some time in the future and have a more specific topic nailed down so that we can kind of not jump around all over the place. But thanks for tuning in, and love to have you guys back and appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Vance.
Yeah, thanks so much.